What happens when you, if I were to say to you, now look hard at the television screen, really look at it. What do you do as distinct from just watching it in the ordinary way when you say, now I really got to see that? What do you do?
You may think it's an error because it's too hard for you as a human being to handle what's happening.
All night long, I sat reviewing the things that had passed, seeming to divide my consciousness and send it both backward through my family tree and forward into the future.
Let me take you back to December of 2019. I had been listening to these three speakers for years now. I like to call them the wisdom triad. I had just taken my first massive dose as I spiral into the dark tunnel of psychosis, paranoia, and what seemed to be my own death. I hear Alan Watts' voice. Let go. So, I do. The world opens, I disappear. All there is light and love, no distinction between self and other. January 2022. I meet Evan. Evan led a meditation group I regularly attended, and we were having a conversation outside of class that day. Evan asked me if I'd ever heard of Alan Watts, Terence McKenna, or Ram Dass. At that point, I was shocked because these three people were in fact the only people I listened to, and I did so on a religious basis, partly because of their close tie to my life-changing trip. I thought to myself, there must be something to these three. Fast forward to August 2023. I'm sitting in a college world religion class taught by Professor Mike Wesch. Part of the first module of the class is about religious experiences caused by psychedelics. The class talks about a concept called ego dissolution and a becoming one with the universe. Through the class, can you guess some of the speakers we were introduced to? That's right, the wisdom triad. Alan Watts, to put it briefly, was a speaker who talks about the Eastern religious experience in a Western context. Most of his lectures include philosophical insights about the rigidness of Western society and the playful childlike spirit in which he believed life should be lived.
I encountered Alan Watts earlier in my life when I think I needed to hear what he had to say. I think Alan Watts was probably an overthinker himself and then developed a philosophy to get him out of that and ended up helping a lot of us overthinkers get in the flow a little bit more and let go a little bit more.
Terence McKenna was a speaker interested primarily in botany and the effects of psychedelics on consciousness. He speaks poetically about his own experiences on drugs and, as a result, his theories about the inner workings of humanity.
I've never done drugs or been much in like a drug culture, and I think Terence McKenna's kind of stayed more in that realm. I guess I've always been more into the religious insight side of things. It took me a while to discover that Terence McKenna was hitting on those themes.
Listening to his experiences with it, the way he speaks about things is so beautiful.
I had the sort of conception that I've always heard about and that my dad has told me about, the stereotypical, like, yeah, you see really, like, colors become more vivid, you see crazy patterns. I was never thinking at that point about how it affects your perception beyond just visual hallucination.
I think psychedelics have mostly influenced my attitudes towards the philosophy of consciousness. And to me, it's more a wake-up call to think about consciousness.
Psychedelics just, as Terence McKenna often says, they just blow the doors off of reality. I mean, he specifically says, you know, meditation can get you there, but for heaven's sake, just take mushrooms and you'll be there.
Ram Dass was a Harvard professor who got kicked out of Harvard when he started experimenting with psychedelics. In a pursuit to experience the psychedelic experience without drugs, he moved to India, where he met Neem Karoli Baba, his guru. He then started to practice mindfulness and meditation. When he moved back to America, he began speaking about his life experiences.
I love his idea of becoming nobody. We spend so much of our life trying to become somebody. We're trained to become somebody, and we're all tend to be very achievement-oriented. And I think there's a really kind of beautiful way to exist in life where you're actually trying to be nobody, right? And letting all that go and just being present.
I think ego death has a really useful application that should be recognized. I think more people could use that experience and it would get us closer to this feeling of collective consciousness. You realize that there is no objective, there's only subjective.
It seems spooky from the outside to just be still and do nothing. But then I find in my own heart that I could do anything at all and be cozy, because I relate to it differently than I once did.
I would say I used to think a lot about the future in a futurist kind of way. I actually used to get paid to do that. And I would like go to companies and they would hire me to like predict the future. I would say like profoundly humbled in say like the 10 years that I was doing that, because I was completely wrong about everything. So by 2017 I was like, well, I wasn't very good at that. So I stopped thinking about the future, and I suppose I started thinking, just trying to like be in the present, and maybe even as like a political act, actually just trying to like be in the present.
I really struggled with self-worth, and I just had nasty, icky thoughts that came through. Ram Dass never suggested that I change those thoughts. He just often said to watch them, I think, more than anything, and that loosened their hold on me. Being present and completely still in heart and mind doesn't mean you're not taking action. I think being present means when you're walking down the street, you're not ignoring the litter on the street.
The community of followers who listen to the Wisdom Triad exists online. Many of the followers have overlapping interests in other YouTube channels and trip reports such as Hamilton Morris, Psyched Substance, CG Kid, and Icarus 480, to name a few. Since my life-changing experience, I've discovered some new speakers and have changed my focus to a concept called non-duality. My favorite YouTube channel is Suzanne Non-Duality, a small content creator who talks about the experience of losing your sense of self. She has no video structure other than to say everything that comes to her mind.
It's so simple. It's just simply what happened. And your interpretation of it is not actually solid and true.
Amazingly enough, in the same style he did with the previous 3 speakers, Evan name-dropped Suzanne Non-Duality during our interview.
There's a person I watch on YouTube called Suzanne, her channel. She rocks, huh? You gotta be joking me. Terrence is so good at building these beautiful wordscapes to describe something. And so often I get lost in the beauty of the wordscape, whereas Suzanne Non-Duality is like, why are we doing this? Like, just be right here. Any words or ideas I could have, it's all they ever can be, I think, is a veil or something between me and the present moment. And I think they'd be proud to have someone find that belief in their works, just to abandon everything they said. None of it was worth anything, and ironically, so was. I don't know. It kind of hurts my brain a little bit, just, you know.